They say sometimes you have to fold with a winning hand in order to be able to later win with a losing hand. And he was saying that made no sense to him. How do you, do you think there's a modicum of truth in that, or is that nonsense? Is there no reason you would ever intentionally fold with a winning hand?
Well, so I think what he means in that is not that you want to, you obviously are never going to fold if you know you're winning. But I think in any poker scenario, any poker hand, it's very rare that you have the absolute best hand in the scenario, right? Like, so most of the time you are kind of playing odds, right? Like, so typically when you put your money in, the best you're going to hope for is being about an 80% chance to win, And that's kind of like where people call it gambling. And whereas if you have an 80% chance to win every time and you consistently get your money in the pot with those odds, you're going to make a lot of money, right? And so I think what he's saying in that is like, if you're not 100% sure and you're in a spot where maybe the bet is so big, and if you don't have the best, there's a chance they have the best. And even if you are right, there's still a chance that they could get lucky and win. And if there's still cards to come. And so it's just understanding pot odds, it's understanding variance, it's understanding bankroll management and cash flow management, because I think that's the part about playing poker professionally that translated into this whole concept of investing for cash flow is, I think what made me really, really amazing at playing poker was the systems that I played, but part of that system was a concept of bankroll management, right? Like in having rules in place, because every tournament I would enter, if anybody's not familiar with poker, I mean, there's what we call asymmetric returns in poker tournaments, right? Like I'll buy into a poker tournament. I may not cash for a tournament 20 times in a row, but when I actually win a tournament, I'll probably get paid 100 to 200 times what the entry fee is, right? Like, so it's, you don't have to win a lot. You just have to be consistent and manage the variance in the process. And so when we start talking about like everything we do with utilizing whole life insurance as a foundational asset and investing for cash flow and having like an opportunity fund and knowing where to take risks and when to take risks and what your risk profile is and kind of what it all looks like. I mean, I think that's probably how poker prepared me most for all this.
Well, you very diplomatically transitioned and said a bunch of true statements, because I think the statement's nonsense. All right, we'll drop, don't worry. I'll move on to talk about life insurance. But
okay,
because I think what they're trying to, because even there, you're kind of explaining why you might sometimes fold with a hand that you think could probably win, but you're not sure. But that still wouldn't explain how does that then make you better able to win later on with an inferior hand. Because I think what the script writer, like I doubt a professional poker player gave them that line. I think what they were trying to imbue was to say, you build up credibility. Like if you fold and let them win with a crappier hand, like it makes them think you're not a bluffer. So then later when you do bluff, it has more credibility. I think that's probably the angle they were taking. But I would also say like, if it's against the same player, but then there are also spots where you just got to realize like sometimes, like I'll be sitting at a table with 10 players, right? Me and 9 other guys, right? Playing a cash game or playing a tournament or whatever. A lot of times if you're playing in poker, like I played in the main event at the World Series of Poker this year. I played 7 events at the World Series, cashed in 3 of them. You know, it was a fun time. But like whenever I'm playing like in the main event, there was one guy at the table that I was like, I'm just not going to mix it up with him. Like I've got 8 other players at the table that I know I can abuse and that I know I can like play different angles. And there's one guy who's at my level that I'm like, I'm just like, why tangle up with him if I don't need to? So if we ever got into a spot, it would be worth folding, even if I thought maybe I was good, even if I thought I had the best hand, just to get into a spot to abuse a different player at the table. Okay. You know, that might be a scenario. All right. Maybe they did. Okay. I see what you're saying. That is more nuanced.
You know what I'm going?
I'll give you that. All right, I like that. All right, good. All right. But I got to ask one more. So when you talk like that, when saying like you're seeing another player and you're realizing, oh yeah, I don't, like for example, like as an economist, I understand what you mean is there's people out there that I could beat them in an argument even if I didn't believe what I was saying. Like, whereas there are other people that I would be afraid to debate. Yeah. Like I wouldn't risk, like there's this one guy, he's a market monetarist. And I always say, I wouldn't debate him next week. I would need 3 months to get ready because even though I think he's wrong, I know he's solid and, like if I debated him next week, he would beat me, even though I think he's wrong. So when it comes to poker, when you talk like that, what is it about is it like a whole suite of capabilities? Like, yeah, they're good at calculating really fast, but also they don't have any obvious facial tics when they, when they hit their trips, and what is it like all of that put together?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. It's an amalgamation of a lot of that, but it's more, I think, more of like a playing style. You understand there are some people that are just very by the book, ABC, exactly what they hold. And some people are much more creative, much more willing to take risks. They play a much more open range of hands, like whereas some of the people at the table, that they're going to play aces, kings, queens, ace, king, just the premium of premium hands. And so like against those guys, I'm going to open up against, right? Because I know I can outplay them. Even if I'm not good, I can bet because they're going to be more tentative, more scared. Whereas other players are going to fire back and play back at me and maybe re-raise me. And you just got to kind of get the feel of, what type of player they are and what kind of angle and lines they're going to take when they're playing. And, the goal is it's a concept called pot control. We want to control the environment that we're playing, right? And when I'm playing against an inferior player that I know is playing straight up kind of ABC poker, I can control the pot even with an inferior hand, knowing the range that he's on, and then bluff or make a move or whatever later, knowing that unless he got really lucky or really hit it hard, he's going to be really tentative and probably fold, right? And another player, that's just not the case, where it's harder to control the pot in the environment in which I'm playing in, because I could bet thinking I'm in control, but then if he re-raises me, I've lost control of the pot control, right? Like now a pot can start to build, and I'm putting a higher percentage of my chips in the pot that I'm willing or wanting to risk for that stage of the tournament. And so there's so many, we could talk about all that for hours.
Okay, well, we should stop in deference to the listeners who thought we were going to be talking about financial sector. Although we could just basically say, quit your job and become a professional poker player, and there you go. Might be true for some people. It probably is true for some people. All right.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Murphy. Thanks for listening to this clip from the Infi podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, please consider subscribing and share this video with others. We've got new episodes dropping every Friday with more insightful discussions. Stay tuned.